Morning, everybody. Welcome to our October CGBN webinar. I hope everybody's doing fantastic today. Just so that everyone is aware, this session is being recorded. We ask that anyone who is not presenting or is part of the panelists to please mute themselves and turn off your recording. The format is over in an hour and a half. We will have a presentation first and then followed by Q&A for each presenter. We will end the recording after the Q&A and we'll go into the needs and wants. If you have any listings or trade missions, please let us know and we are happy to put it on the CGBN page. After this session will be recorded, it will be on the CGBN YouTube channel as well as the CGBN page. In the meantime, please put your information into the chat, such as your name, email, phone number, and your needs and wants. My name is Dimitri Lachman. I'm the current chair for the CGBN. I also serve as a treasurer for NICAR. I would like to say a big thank you to our past CGBN chairs, Ahmed Badat, Teresa Mueller, and Bill Caton. Thank you for all your help and everything that you do. Ahmed, I know you wanted to put in a couple of words.
Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's going to be a few people joining us as we go along, but just want to, make you familiar with the term township. The term township in South Africa, there is a legal definition, pertaining to real estate, which has nothing to do with race, but the term township in relations to the Group Areas Act in South Africa, which specified particular areas where different races lived. So that is what we're talking about when we talk of townships. There's township for Indians, people of Indian descent, people described as coloreds and blacks. So yeah, this focus is going to be on a particular township in the outskirts of Cape Town. And we had the pleasure of visiting South Africa last year with NAR leadership. And Adrian Dutoit, who was part of our host, part of the group that organized for us to visit different places and meet different, partners in the real estate industry there. And one of the places we were taken was to Bitprop. And that was really quite an eye-opener in terms of what they do, what they're doing, and where they're going from there. So thank you very much for joining us. And I'm going to ask Adrian to say a few words.
Thank you. So yes, I would just like to say, well, first of all, Robusta represents real estate business owners in South Africa. We're the largest representative grouping of real estate business owners. And we did, like Ahmed said, we had the fortune of going to see all the Bitprop projects, and they really are doing incredible work. And I know Dylan's going to tell you a lot more about it, but we were fortunate to meet the people whose lives they are changing daily by becoming homeowners and property entrepreneurs really in their own businesses. So yes, thank you very much. And it's lovely to see everybody on the chat. And Ahmed, again, thank you for keeping the relationship alive with the wonderful work that we do in South Africa. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you. Frank, a quick introduction. Frank is our new global ambassador for the countries in Africa. So Frank, just say a good quick hello, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Frank Oti. I am the latest NIR Global Ambassador to South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Uganda. I guess they're calling it NIR Global Ambassador to Africa now because it's an evolving region. So there's a lot of countries joining. I'm headed to Uganda to represent NAR in December, and I hope that some of you might be able to come. And then when we get there, we'll probably be talking to Tanzania, Kenya, and Rwanda. So Africa seems to be the new frontier in global real estate, so watch out. And you can always reach me if you need any contacts or information or whatever. I appreciate it. Adrian, nice to see you again. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes, Frank, very nice to see you too. And I'm very pleased that you're representing Africa. I'm looking forward to going to some NAR events where you are as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Dimitra? take over.
Perfect. So today's webinar is about empowering low-income homeowners to become property entrepreneurs. Bitprop partners with township property owners to build backyard rental flats, providing both new income streams for homeowners and returns for investors through a shared rental model. COO Dylan, a founding team member, has helped scale Bitprop to nearly 500 units, leveraging his background in marketing and economics. Lead architect Anika, who joined in 2022, has optimized flat designs for tenant livability and cost efficiency. She also advocates for municipal bylaw reforms to facilitate formal backyard developments. Anika holds a master's degree in architecture from University of Cape Town. Dylan, Anika, it's all you.
All right. Thanks so much, Dimitri. Ahmed and Adrian. I think it's been a while since we've spoken and since you all came over here, but thanks for continuing to spread our word and tell people about what we're doing. Ahmed, thanks for the introduction. I think it's in the line we work, it's sometimes difficult to communicate exactly who we're working with and what the townships are that we're working in here, because people understand it differently in different countries. So thanks for that. I thought I would show a video just to start things off so you can really see, who the homeowners are that we're working with, what the properties look like that they're working on, and what some of their stories are.
With an ever-growing number of properties and partnerships, Bitprop's mission has been to demonstrate how wealth and security can be the result of only one asset, land. By partnering with homeowners based in the townships of Cape Town, we've been able to establish micro-property entrepreneurs.
I have always wished to own a business property, but according to my financial status, I couldn't.
Olisa was one of our first homeowners and has run an extremely successful property since 2019.
But Bitprop made it possible, and I've managed to own this proper structure that I have now.
During our 10-year partnership, Bitprop provides investment, construction skills, insurance, maintenance, and rental management services, resulting in professional flats on their property. Bitprop's sustainable commercial model, which uses rental income to provide a return on those who've invested capital, means there's no limit to the number of property owners that we can partner with. Our homeowners, predominantly women between the ages of 30 and 60, partner with Bitprop to create long-term value, either through a pension income or a significant asset to leave for their children. But with nearly half unemployed, even the immediate income they receive from rent can significantly change their lives. From our first property in 2019, the design has gone through various iterations, fine-tuning the balance between build cost, quality, maintenance requirements, and the partnership setup that will provide optimum value for both the homeowner and the sustainability of the model.
During the construction period, I liaise and meet with homeowners often. This tends to be where the rubber meets the road, as I get to see the homeowner and observe their joy as they watch their property transform.
Tenants, they are so happy about the flats, because they can see if they've got everything, and now they are not struggling because everybody's just buy own electricity and own water. So now there's no ways if we can fight, because everything is just doing her own or his own business.
As a tenant, right? Very amazing. I love the place, and it's so neat and clean, and also the design is so amazing. So I feel at home.
Looking at the success of the model thus far, Bitprop would like to expand to other township spaces in Cape Town and eventually beyond, establishing a relationship with homeowners all over South Africa and other countries where the need is equally as pressing.
To summarize what Bitprop does, so we partner with property owners from the townships around Cape Town who have a property, the property they would have bought or inherited sometime in the last 20 or 30 years. It may have been a government-funded house or something that they've managed to acquire through, say, a low-income bank bond scheme. And they've got a house on the property, 1 or 2 bedrooms, and space behind it that they would like to develop. But they don't have the means to do so. I just want to show you a picture here. you'll see behind this house here, there are lots of properties with sort of informal flats that are half constructed or, you know, not painted or half plastered. It's very much the trend in townships in South Africa and across Africa to use one's property as a means for income creation through rental generation. And that can be anything from renting out your space for someone to build a shack on the property, or perhaps a little shop, to building a block of flats bit by bit, brick by brick, as one saves money or borrows from friends or family, to building a full block of flats like this. But for most people, it's really quite impossible to do so. So we partner with them. We provide the funding and the expertise. We go through the whole architectural process with them, design the flats, hire a local construction company from the area we're building in, and then we build 4 or 6 bachelor flats behind their house, as you see in this picture here. And after that, so construction takes place over sort of 3 months, and for a period of 10 years after that, we're in partnership with the homeowner to manage the property. So it's full-on rental management then. So with them, we find tenants, manage the legal stuff, the lease agreements, deposits, rent payments. We also provide maintenance. We cover the flats for insurance. And over those 10 years, the homeowner gets 15%. So that's gross rent income. That's a new income stream for them that they weren't earning before. And we're able to cover capital plus return, maintenance, and insurance. And after 10 years, we step out the picture. We have no ownership or residual interest in the property. And they now have an asset that's increased perhaps 3 times in value, a significant income stream on their property. And for most of them, it's either the intention is it's long-term. It's a long-term investment in the asset. It's a pension income. The average state pension in South Africa is about 2,000 Rand, maybe $100, which is the alternative for a lot of the people we partner with. And having these flats on their property, they're looking at sort of 10, 11 times that after 10 years. So they're looking for security in their retirement or something to leave to their children. It's a long-term asset. They can see the value that can be created from it well beyond their lifetime. And that's quite valuable for the people we partner with. And let me just jump back. So we've been doing this 5 years now. And really the dream behind creating Bitprop was, can you create a model that can have impact for township property owners in a scalable, sustainable way? So we don't need government financing or donations or that sort of thing. Can we create a model that sustains itself? So we attract private capital, which has mostly been foreign up until now. So that would be family offices, impact funds, that sort of thing. They would invest into like a fund structure. We draw down from that to build our flats. And then the rental income that's generated each month for 10 years after maintenance, etc., goes back into the fund, creates a return, and the investor earns, say, 15% per annum return over that invested time. So they sustain their capital, they're incentivized to invest. The model attracts further capital. And the idea is, that's how you can expand to help thousands more people like the women we've already helped. And of course, it's not only a Cape Town or a South African problem. It's the problem we're addressing is prevalent across Africa, across much of the developing world, and that's where we see ourselves growing. So just to maybe emphasize a few of the key impact points. So The two primary benefits that we look at here, so it's income creation for the homeowner. I would say about a third of them are unemployed, a third of them working on sort of minimum wage equivalent, and a third of them are state employees. Our average homeowner is 50 years or so. About 2/3 of them are women. So they're approaching, they'll reach retirement age when they're finished with us. They use the income that they earn. So they earn 15% per month during our partnership, and they would use that for stuff like groceries, school fees, school uniforms, paying off their municipal accounts, that sort of thing. What most of them come to us for, though, is the long-term value. It's their property that increases in value by 200-300%, and the future income that will contribute to them. We've also introduced a lot of environmental sustainability aspects to our properties. Annika can talk a bit more about that. Township job creation. So we have 3 or 4 construction teams that are constantly cycling between our properties. They're rolling projects as they go, and everyone they hire on the team is from the communities we're building in. And of course, that has quite a long impact, through the families and kids that are supported through that. Big reason why this all works and why backyarding as a concept is so prevalent is that housing is such a shortage. People are constantly looking for housing, especially affordable housing. And that's particularly prevalent in the areas we build in. There's a lot of migration from other provinces and countries to Cape Town. So there's a lot of pressure on housing across the spectrum. So the stat here says in 2023 we built the equivalent of 3.5% of so that would be our provincial government, and I think that's closer to 8% now. So it's through this model, through attracting private capital and working with local role players in sort of a win-win way, we're able to have quite a significant impact on housing as well. So we've been going for 5 years. We started in 2019. At that stage, there was no one willing to finance us. We had to self-finance, prove a lot of assumptions or disprove a lot of assumptions that tenants wouldn't pay rent, that people would bypass us, homeowners would bypass us, that it was impossible to build at the right construction rate. So we started slowly. We had to crawl through COVID, but things took off in the last few years. We now have almost 500 flats, including those under construction, and there's huge demand for this here. It's very hard as a township property owner to get access to funding or the expertise to do something like this. It's expensive, of course. The regulatory environment is quite complex, and so people either just don't even try, or they'll build without even considering the regulatory restrictions, and that results in a lot of buildings that aren't approved. The city has no idea of the infrastructure needed, and it just causes problems down the line. So our offering to do the finance and combine that with sort of full stop shop, get your property from vacant to having flats operating, has been very well received by a lot of people in Cape Town. We're operating in 7 townships around Cape Town, and that's expanding. The demand is huge. Very positive some very positive partnerships with the city of Cape Town. So it's looking, we're heading towards 1,000 units here, and hopefully the ability to grow to some other cities around South Africa quite soon. So that's the model in a nutshell. It's of course, it makes sense conceptually, but operationally is very tricky to implement. There are a lot of moving parts, role players, a lot of technicality. So my colleague Annika will talk through a bit of sort of what the journey is maybe for a homeowner from partnering with us to completion, and a bit more about what she does on the ground. Thanks,
Yeah.
Annika.
Thanks, Dylan. So let me just explain the homeowner journey. So homeowners typically hear about us either through friends, family, a neighbor, or Facebook ads at this point. And so we have an application process where they would apply. Once the application comes through, we'll have a look at the property itself. We'll do the measurements on site, and we'll see how much space there is in their backyard. Depending on the amount of space available, we are then able to put either 4 or 6 bachelor units onto their property. But before we get to that point, once we've realized that this property is worth pursuing, we invite them over to the offices to have a bit of an interview. We do some credit checks. We check just their history, their relationship with money. Obviously, we're not a bank, but there's a lot of things that we look at. We hear their story, we see their personality, we listen to their struggles, and then we kind of decide whether this is someone that we believe is a good match to partner with for the next 10 years. Once that's done, we connect them with one of our trusted contractors, which Dylan mentioned. We have about 3 of them, and they have quite big teams that rotate, and we're building constantly. So once we start building, before that, this is the first time that a homeowner would actually interact with a professional, a built environment professional. So for me personally, it's very important to sit with them, with the plans. Although we don't do custom plans, we have a few typologies that fit within the budget and the model that we're using. So I would choose the best suited one, and where there is choice, I will allow the choice to go through. So that would be, we would do between 4 or 6 units. And so on the screen, you'll see a typical example of a 4-bedroom, or a 4-room bachelor unit. Yes, so it would just depend on the shape and the size of the property. So all of these bachelor units come with the built-in cupboards for the kitchen. They have their own shower, toilet, basin. This is not typical. You would find that in the township, in these areas, to save costs, people will either share bathrooms, share sleeping spaces, share kitchens. So this is quite unique and important. And you'd see that it has the bedroom and then the built-in cupboards and a work from home desk. You'll see that. You can just go to the next one. And then you'll see here is our 6 unit. Obviously, there's varying typologies. These is just 2 of them, but this is kind of what we do on rotation. You'll see the same features featuring in every single one of them. That's just to kind of keep the model consistent and to keep rental and what we're charging in different areas the same. I think Dylan, you can just go back a little bit.
Oops.
One more.
One more.
Yeah, so here are the interiors. I think we've seen this, but this is just kind of, now that you've seen the plan, this is kind of how it starts to look in reality. And now you can start going back. There we go. So this is just a render of one of the streets in a township in Khayelitsha, which is here in South Africa. What we've actually done. So this is a real street, although it's just a render. We have about, how many is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties in the same street. So
I think we have 7 there now.
7.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So this is just a render just to show how it starts changing the streetscape and the typology, the urban landscape, and what we're really doing, how this densification looks like. We're obviously making sure that it applies to all the local regulations, fire safety, all of those things. So that's pretty much what we're starting to do, and we can already see the impact that it's making on the street. Homeowners are becoming friends in the street, and it's creating this, I don't know, it's a community effect. So the more people that you obviously bring into the neighborhood, technically the more safer it can be, because there's more eyes on the street and more movement. So this is kind of the type of impact that Bitprop is currently having in the urban space, the built fabric. And then once it's built, we hand it over to the management team, and that's what they start doing. So just to finish off, I think Dylan also just mentioned some of the green aspects that we've incorporated. So we currently build with a bit of a custom brick. That brick has something called a resin-8 aggregate inside of it, which is plastic. So that replaces a percentage of the raw materials that would go into that brick. And that locks quite a bit of plastic into these buildings. So building with brick is really important in this type of community, mostly because people don't see living in a shack, which would be a type of aluminium or tin structure, to be good. So this is something that people aspire to. So that's why we build with brick. And then we also use Envirolite, which is where polystyrene is put into the slabs of the floors, which is light for transportation and obviously easy then for our contractors to have a ribbon block system. So those are just some of the green aspects that we've started to incorporate into this. So coupling green and sustainable with low cost housing is something that we're really proud of, and that we're trying to improve with every single product that we taste. So that's pretty much it, Dylan, from my side.
And what's been quite amazing is traditionally sort of environmentally friendly construction methodology materials is not really addressed to the lower income construction market. It's generally much more premium, especially in South Africa. I think we're a few years behind. But building this model at scale and sort of learning slowly, modularization, working with local contractors on the ground, we've been able to slowly implement these things and make it a norm in the township, at least in the Cape Town township construction industry. And we hope to continue doing that. It's been quite a journey, trying to build a scalable model in such a low income market where the margins are very, very low and the environment is sometimes tricky, and make it attractive to investors. But it's working here at least. It's going nicely and sustainably. There's a lot of excitement about it, and hopefully we can take that to the next step beyond Cape Town. There are so many people that want our help, that want to partner with us. It's incredible to hear their stories and to really, when you meet a homeowner, maybe after they've received their first month's rent, then it's really real. They see the flats, they've met the tenants, they've been part of the process of finding the tenants, and then they receive that first income without having put any money in, but having put a lot of faith into the process and blood, sweat, and tears. They really see that it pays off then. And we work with them for 10 years, so it's sort of a hand-holding process in the beginning, and we take them through the process of becoming a property entrepreneur. For 99% of them, they've never done anything like this, but at the end of 10 years, they'll be able to run their property on their own or have trained their kids to run the property. And it's really about creating long-term sustainable income for them and their families. So there are lots of aspects around this. We can talk about the difficulties we faced. We can talk about fundraising or the architectural side, but maybe we'll take direction from everyone else on what more we can discuss. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Annika. One of the questions that I have for you is, I know you said it, you had challenges in the beginning, people believing in the project and investors flocking to this. How is it now that you have you're at 500 units? Is it a little bit better? Are people believing in this? I mean, you still struggling a little bit. What's the story?
No, of course, it's totally different. Pitching with 16 units and 300, that changed the story. And plus a few years of rental data to show that, it actually works. We have 97% occupancy, we have 0.1% defaults, rent escalates at 8% a year, but we had to prove that first. So it's much easier, but construction is expensive and it's a 10-year process, so you don't recycle the capital that quickly. So we're always looking for more funding. What I will say is, maybe the sad thing is it's been much harder to get South African investment, to get South Africans to invest into the townships here. We've been much more successful with European investment. And there are probably a few reasons for that. But as we've grown, we've been able to start that process of, speaking to the banks here and having a bit more success with smaller impact funds here. But it's a constant fundraising process.
Sure.
If we want to keep.
Definitely. Teresa?
Thanks for the presentation. I am wondering, when you said, for example, European investment, where you are going to help advertise it, because I feel like this is a topic that could be presented at some of these larger conference forums, whether it be MIPIM, FIAPSI, NAR. There's multiple very large conferences. I actually just got back from Expo Real, and presenting it would be twofold. So I'm asking whether you do it and or colleagues, because one, you're looking for your own investment, but two, as possible solutions, because, it's a worldwide epidemic that there's not affordable housing, there's lots of, there's not enough housing to meet the demands. So talking about your project and, whether it be a presentation and or panel, where do you bring that beyond here in a webinar?
Yeah, and we're quite conscious of the fact that, we haven't perfected everything, and it's a global problem, as you said, and there are probably solutions or ideas out there we won't think of ourselves. So, we try and get input from as many people as possible. What works in Cape Town might work slightly differently elsewhere. So we've actually struggled a bit, like directly in real estate. With pitching and getting interest. It's been more on the impact investment side, on the sort of income funds, more entrepreneurially minded organizations and businesses and that sort of thing. It's stuff like this, conferences in Cape Town. But I think we've barely scratched the surface. And we've done nothing really in the US. It's all been European focused. So there's interest. There's a lot of interest in the model out there. I think one stumbling block we've encountered quite a bit is that so-called impact funding is mostly green funding. It's not for social impact, it's for environmental impact. And obviously our primary angle is the social impact. And so, especially with the big players in Europe, that's always been a problem. But the environment is changing. Hopefully we'll make more progress on that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ahmad, and followed by Frank.
Yeah, so let me just Yeah, so Dylan, when you say Europe, in particular, where this idea has come from, and your CEO is Scandinavia, Sweden, correct?
Yeah.
So are the investors from that part?
Yeah, so that's where the first investors, at least, it
Okay.
was
Yeah,
in his networks.
yeah. So I mean, even for you, who is based in South Africa, and I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but your set of challenges are going to be quite different going to Johannesburg, because your base in Cape Town, you know how things work there, and the bureaucratic red tape is quite different moving from one area to other. So would you partner with somebody else there, or would you expand your team, Bitprop, to continue the same process in other parts of the country?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we'd be open to whatever makes sense. As you say, I think the key differences will be bureaucratic. It'll be red tape on the ground, understanding the local municipality. It'll be construction cost, especially in different countries. Maybe the rent level. The model will work, but it will require tweaking, and you will of course need partners on the ground, whether we've licensed it out, or we have a team on the ground, or we have a satellite office with the construction team on the ground, or something like that. That remains to be seen. And is it possible to replicate what we've done here elsewhere? We think so.
It's very relationship based at this point. You've got lots of contacts on the ground, and especially the builders, the other contractors who know people, who knows this guy. So we've really established quite a web, and that I think takes lots of time to create. So if we could create that somewhere else, that would be, great, but a big challenge.
And a local partner would be key to that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And Frank?
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me to this program. Quite impressive, Dylan. Wonderful presentation. And I think that your model can work in so many areas. I believe that very soon, a few cities might come to South Africa to study what you're doing. So keep it up. I have a three-part question. One is the 15% return to the homeowner. I know it varies with the number of units and also the location too, and demand for the units. Is that something that the homeowners are happy with, or is it something that you're going to adjust going forward? And the second question is, you have an end time to the project, which is 10 years after completion, I believe. What of a situation where you are unable to recoup your investment in the 10-year period? Is there going to be an adjustment? And my third question, I hope you remember all of them, will be the environmental impact, the demand for social stuff like water, electricity, and other things, because I see an explosion in the townships of anywhere between 2 to 3 times the population as you do these things. And those are my questions. Thank you so much.
Shall I take the first two? You take the last one. Okay. So the 15% and the 10 years is sort of two sides of the same coin. It's like we've tried a few things. At least in the beginning, we tried a few variations. We had a stepped model where that percentage changed every couple of years in favor of the homeowner. It was too complicated to explain, and it just people didn't pick up on that. The 15% ended up being that sort of balance of it doesn't have to be 20 years, but it's longer than 5 years. Like, we think people can stomach 10 years. It's half a home loan. It covers the necessary construction costs for the quality to be decent enough to rent, low enough maintenance, the quality is the product that the homeowner is taking for themselves after 10 years is good. So the 15% is sort of that sweet spot in our economic situation. You know, if you're in another place where the ratio of rent to construction to vacancy to everything was a bit different, there's no reason it couldn't be different. And that's modeled in with the 10 years. So we don't issue a loan. We're in partnership. We take full risk. So if we don't, you know, if something happens, the flats don't rent out, we don't earn everything back on the property, we take that risk. And that works. It works. It's accepted by, you know, everyone that we partner with. There might be some people who might turn away because they don't like the terms, but that, as with any product, but the market accepted. It works here. And a lot of financial institutions will say, why don't you push it to 15 years? Or, you know, of course, you can tweak it in lots of ways, but how it is now works to give a sufficient return that attracts capital and has sort of maximum impact for the homeowner in a reasonable amount of time. There was, of course, a lot of trial and error figuring that out. And it works now. In the future, things, you know, there's always room for changes, or, you know, maybe in a different market, it might have to operate differently. Annika, third question.
Yeah. So you were talking about water and services and those things, and the impact that densifying actually has on these areas. So we are very well aware of the fact that obviously increasing the amount of people on a property puts a lot of strain on the services, and just the general services of this area. And because townships are generally an area of low income, I think it's been an area that has been quite neglected in terms of upgrading these types of services. So I think one of the big reasons for that is that the City of Cape Town didn't have a lot of data on what's happening in these areas. Building informally and building unregulated structures, these things are never registered, and therefore the City of Cape Town didn't have any data on what is being used and how many in which areas. So one thing that Bitprop is doing is we obviously cannot upgrade those services. We know we are adding to the strain, but in turn, we are providing the City of Cape Town with some data, electricity usage, water usage, those types of things. They can use that to kind of fill the need or see what is happening. I know that the City of Cape Town is also talking about some financing models on what they're going to try and do to service these areas with this influx of people, allowing more people to live on these properties, and allowing to do what we're doing. So it is a big discussion, and I don't think the City of Cape Town has the answer for it yet, but it is definitely something that all the partners are working together to address. But in terms of what Bitprop is, we're trying to see if we can put on solar onto these properties to see if we can take a little bit of the load off of the electricity load. We're looking at some water solutions, low flow taps, those types of things to just ease some of the strain. But I think the bigger infrastructure problem would have to be addressed by the City of Cape Town themselves. But I know that they are working on that and using some of our data to do that. I hope that answers the question.
And from a model point of view, it's like our model incentivizes cooperation. So the homeowner signs up with us, very often has a massive outstanding municipal bill. They don't have to pay it off, but they have to make an arrangement with the city on that to partner with us. And that has to be sort of paid off over time. And the incentive is, you know, if water gets cut off, or electricity, the tenants have no water or electricity, and then you lose your revenue stream. So that's actually, so it's been positive from that point of view. We're adding strain, but the city can see what we're doing. The plans are approved and everything. Whereas 70 to 80% of what's built in the township residentially has no plans. The complicated thing is if you go into an area maybe where it's already got way too out of control, and there are a couple of parts of Cape Town like that, and lots of other cities around Africa are like that, where the infrastructure's collapsed, or it's kind of beyond fixing it in this sort of way. And then it's a very good question, Frank. Like, how do you approach that from a municipal point of view? How, as a business like us, or some other developer or financier, I don't really know how you partner with the city to kind of improve that kind of thing, because it can be quite bad.
Absolutely. I think you guys took the questions very, but definitely the municipal councils would have to partner with you guys to really begin to study, and with, like Anika said, the data you provide for them that they didn't have will probably help them to do future planning and ensure that the infrastructure is sustainable. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
Perfect. We had one more question from Justin. Justin, if you'd like to ask it.
Sure thing. So my question was, what happens in the event you build an ADU or a flat behind one of these properties, and then the homeowner decides to sell? And that question kind of doubled down in my mind when you were talking about it being a partnership and not a loan, et cetera. So I wondered what things you did to insulate or protect yourself from that situation where you build and then there's some change. And it could be, they just decide to move, they pass away, whatever happens.
Yep. No one's actually decided to sell yet out of 100 properties, but we've had a few pass away. And as you said, it's a partnership. There's no loan. We don't have any entitlement to the estate or anything like that. But by law in South Africa or in Cape Town, if you have a 10-year rental lease on a property, that has to be registered on the title deed. So there's at least acknowledgement of our lease of the property on the property for the 10 years. So in the event of sale, there would have to be some communication through us. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a watertight protection, but it helps. If the homeowner wants to sell, there's a settlement calculation, which is basically just the revenue. So our 85% of the revenue we would collect between the selling point and the end of the period. So there's no interest or anything added on it, but it's what would be left in the partnership. So they are able to do that if they get an insurance payout or something like that. And that's something also hasn't happened, but people ask about quite often. So they would have to do that, or they would have to, the person they sell to would have to take over their partnership responsibilities. Obviously, that's complicated because there's a lot of training and experience that's already happened. So settlement, and from a risk point of view, settlement for us would be better. What has happened quite a few times is a homeowner passes away, and we've had to evolve in how we write the contracts based on these experiences. It's quite common here, or very common, not to have a will in the townships here. So there's no sort of legal record of what should happen with the property. And it gets stuck in a complete mess in the high court, especially if there are kids involved and that sort of thing. And so we create a will with them if they don't have one, specify what happens to the partnership and to the property. And very often, especially for the elderly people we partner with, we will do the training with a child. So they'll have like an adult son or daughter that maybe lives on the property, and sometimes they may even co-sign. If their parent is very old, then they'll co-sign. So, and they're co-signing not necessarily on the income stream, but on the responsibilities of running the property. So it can be quite complicated. And we've sort of evolved through trial and error as we've experienced these things, but yeah, it works. Because we don't issue loans or have a bond on the property, that has made it very difficult to get bank financing. So that's a journey we went down in the beginning, where the banks would like to refinance us because we're bringing them a new customer who would otherwise not qualify for a home loan. But they're so conservative, they won't take rental income or lease agreements as any kind of surety or proof of income. But it is what it is. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that was very helpful. And you had mentioned earlier in the presentation that, that is what is working there. I think you have a fascinating idea, and I believe there may very well be tweaks or, advantages, disadvantages to doing that kind of a thing somewhere else. But you're a trendsetter and super cool. I appreciate you. This was awesome for me getting to hear what you guys are doing.
I much appreciate it.
Sorry, I was muted. That leads us to getting into the needs and wants, which is going to be done by Teresa. Teresa, it's all you.
So before we end the recording, because we're going to end the recording, thank you everyone for attending, and thank you to our presenters. As you know, we have the CGBN webinar every month as a continuation of us also going to large conferences in person, but it also gives us an opportunity to continually not just network, but advertise our needs and wants. I do want to advertise something additional while we have the recording on, that at the end of this month, and it should be posted today through our NICAR events, because you all presumably registered through NICAR. For this event, we have something discussing license portability. So that's particularly important for those practitioners that are in the US. So if you are going, say, to MIPIM or Expo Real or AMP or whatever large conference that happens outside the US, we go as cheerleaders for where we live, me, Chicago, same for Ahmed and Dimitro. But when we go there, we sometimes meet individuals that are not necessarily investing where we're located. They may say, well, we love Chicago. It's great food, great culture, and we can go to Great Lake behind me. But they say, that's not what I'm really looking for right now. I need a port city. It could be Miami. It could be New York. It could be Los Angeles. It could be any variety. Or they just say, okay, I'm looking for data centers. As it happens, Chicago is great, but there are also other locations, data centers. The point is when you go there, it doesn't mean that you can't help facilitate a transaction if you are not in that city. So as commercial practitioners, we are working across the US, right? That's why we go to these international events. So the very specific topic that we're going to have in a couple of weeks is license portability. So if you are licensed in a state in the United States, there are different rules depending on what state you are in. Some are red, some are yellow, some are green. And we're going to talk about that in the CRE Broker Forum. Now, the CRE Broker Forum is very similar to this, where we also advertise needs and wants. but it tends to be a little bit more localized and hyper-focused, less flexible in how we advertise it. So I encourage you, if you or anyone you know needs this guidance, to attend the next CRE Broker Forum. Like I said, it should be on the NICAR events, hopefully by end of day today. And you can ask me any questions about that. If you have suggestions for presenters, please contact either Dimitro, Ahmed, or myself. You think, this would be really great for our group. Whatever it is, we look for discussions of all topics from practitioners all over the world. We encourage that regular interaction. And I hope that this was engaging for you. You did take an opportunity to put your information in the chat. Go ahead and download that. We also download it. So if for some reason you missed it or you were on your phone and you couldn't get it, you can reach out to one of us or through the webpage, the info@nicar.com. So that's all I have before we end the recording, but everyone, please do stay on for the networking session. And I look forward to hearing everyone's needs and wants.